So I was just talking about EXO-6, and they're releasing a bunch of random characters from Star Trek movies and series. But I found it kind of odd that TrekMovie.com, that old favourite TrekMovie.com, was highlighting the fact they were doing a Sisko figure. And they're suggesting that DS9 doesn't get as much love and doesn't get as much love as the other series. Because Enterprise and Voyager seem to, particularly Enterprise, they've sort of been rediscovered by fans because they kind of got trashed back in the day, and mostly because UPN had bad ratings and because the show was a small network and the shows didn't get big ratings, and a lot of people just care about size, so the fact the shows didn't get really big ratings, they kind of trashed them just for that, because these people don't actually have the ability to actually look at a show and actually, do a proper review or actually assess it properly. So they just look at the ratings and go, oh, it's a hit, therefore it's good. Oh, it did get good ratings, therefore it's bad. And that's as basic as their, reviewing talents, go. So those shows didn't get a lot of love back in the day. I loved them. But they're sort of being rediscovered by fans who are watching them without any press, without any PR, just, oh, this is Star Trek Voyager show, I haven't seen that. Oh, gee, this is really good. And talking about it and not realising that you're not supposed to like Voyager because that's like, because it was one of the shows that was trashed back in the day. Enterprise, you're supposed to hate Enterprise because apparently some people did back in the day. There are a few people who complained about it being a prequel before it started, and then once we saw it, people were complaining that it wasn't different enough. So, it was embraced back in the day, but not really critically. I mean, by the fans, but critically, so to see them sort of get attention now is nice, and they're claiming that DS9 hasn't gotten the same attention, hasn't gotten as much love, and they're subtly suggesting it's due to race, and they're bringing up the Sisko 1/6 figure. Now, I personally hate this figure because he's holding up the glass from, like he does from In the Power of Moonlight, which is the episode where, because I never really loved Sisko, and no, I loved Uhura, I loved Geordie, I loved Worf, I loved and Tuvok, all the other characters played by black actors, so it's got nothing to do with race. I didn't like him because he was belligerent, reactionary, and when it came down to it, when he was in war, he basically gave up his morals and murdered people for the cause. And he justified, the end, the means justify the ends, justify the means. Sort of, I hated that episode. I hated that character. I kind of stopped watching the show at that point. I wasn't really into the whole Dominion War when it was on, and that moment really turned me off. I'm like, this is not Star Trek. This is not Starfleet. This is not how Picard would not do that. Kirk would not do that. And they weren't just doing it and he was like ashamed or something. He was like proud of it. He was like, which is your typical response to someone who commits a crime or is an abuser. It's like just being proud of it and seeing it in your face. There's something about holding up that glass, like I'm gonna celebrate the fact that I have just, killed people and I'm morally bankrupt. And I've just committed a war crime. I'm a war criminal. Cheers. I hate it. I find it really offensive. I would never buy that figure no matter what. But I find it curious that they're focusing on that character and not some of the other characters that are being released, because they sort of feel that DS9 isn't getting the attention it deserves, and they're suggesting it's because it was led by a black male. And I'm like, really? Really? Because Discovery is led by a black female, and no one cares about, well, some people, okay, there's a few racists out there who do care, but the fans don't care. Their issues are more with the canon issues and story issues and so forth. No one cares about her being the first black female to lead a Star Trek series. That's a good thing. I wish Uhura had had a series back in the day. I wish they'd given her or Sulu a series, in the 90s, them with being admirals or commanders or something of ships or something. I would have loved that. But we didn't get a black female leading a show until now. Fine. But Sisko, my issues with him are what he did in the show, what his character did, not his race. It's not about race or gender. It's about the character, the story, and what happens, what they do. And one of the main issues I have with the new Star Trek shows is that they've kind of made Starfleet the bad guy, and they've put a lot of current day issues that we have into the future And it's like, well, that's basically saying we haven't made any progress. We're stuck in the same place we are now because the mistakes we were making now, we're still making then. The Federation is still has slavery, of how they treat machines. They still have immigration issues, all these sort of things that are current day issues. They've just, instead of having them another alien that, the Star Trek crews are encountering, they're making it us. And I'm like, that means we've made no progress. And that just, what people loved about Star Trek was it showed this version of us in the future we could aspire to and look forward to. And basically what they're saying is, no, we're going to be the same. We're going to have the same problems in 300 years that we have now. Why would I want to live in that world? It's the same as this world. So those are all my issues with Star Trek, and I found it interesting that they were focusing on what they were focusing on with the release of the Sisko figure.